Welcome, Algebra 2, to adding and subtracting rational expressions. This works just like something you learned years and years ago, which is adding and subtracting fractions. For example, if I wanted to add 1/2 plus 1/3, I would first find a common denominator. So let's do that. And pay attention to how you find the common denominator. I think most of you probably learned to first see if they have any factors in common, which 2 and 3 don't. And then if they don't, you're going to multiply by the other denominator. So I would take times 2 here, times 2 over 2. And you can't see that pen. Let me try a different one. Bad pen. This is the bad pen. How about you? Oh, you're better. So times 2 over 2. And this would be times 3 times 3. And then we would get 3 out of 6 plus 2 out of 6. And then we'd be able to just add across and keep the denominator. These are the exact same steps we're going to do when we're adding and subtracting rational expressions, which are just really fancy fractions. How fun! So we're going to get a common denominator first thing. You'll want to proceed just like we did up here. First, see if your denominators have any factors in common. And x minus 1 and x plus 4 do not have any factors in common. So we're going to multiply each fraction by the opposite denominator. So the first fraction is going to get multiplied by x plus 4 over x plus 4. And notice I am putting parentheses around anything that has more than one term. And then the second fraction is going to get multiplied by this denominator. Okay, and notice both denominators are now the same. They're both x plus 4 times x minus 1. And you can actually leave it in that form, in that factored form, if you want to. So this step, check, check. Okay, simplify each numerator. So now we're going to distribute. And in fact, let me zoom in on this. Okay. So we're going to distribute. So I've got x times 2x. That's 2x squared. And then 4 times 2x, which is 8x. And then I have subtract. Oops. Wrong color. And then I have 3 times x, which is 3x. 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3. And then my denominator, which is x plus 4 times x minus 1 on both. So far we've done this step. We've multiplied by the opposite denominator, just like we did with the fractions. And then, just like we did here, we did 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2. We did that here, just there's more to multiply. So we did x times 2x, 4 times 2x, and then 3 times x, and 3 times negative 1. And then we just have our denominators written out. Okay, then we're going to simplify each. Oh, we just did that step. Now, since we're subtracting, we are going to have to distribute that minus sign, so be really careful not to forget that. So we've got 2x squared plus 8x, and then minus 3x minus negative 3, which is plus 3. Then when you write down the denominator, just write it once. So when we did the 6's up here, we didn't write 12 on the denominator. You don't add denominators. We just wrote a 6. So here you're just going to write the denominator once. Don't try to add them together. All right, cool. Did that. Then your next step combine like terms in the numerator. So I've got no like terms with that, but I've got x, 8x, and negative 3x. Those are like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and combine those together. So 2x squared, that's just on its own. And then 8x minus 3x is 5x. And then plus 3. And then x plus 4 times x minus 1. Now, you actually could stop here. Depending what the problem is asking you for. If it asks you to go ahead and multiply this out, then you need to multiply it out. But a lot of times you may be able to just stay here and you'll be good. So, just depends on the context. I'll go ahead and show you though. You're going to use box method to multiply this out. So set up, or you could use FOIL if that's what you're comfortable with. It's really up to you. Okay, so I have x plus 4 times x minus 1. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Then remember, these are your like terms. So you've got, this is your denominator, so you've got x squared. 4x minus 1x is 3x minus 4. And then your numerator. Just rewrite it. And there's your answer. You've simplified your expression. Woohoo! All right, let's try number 2. So first, I want you to tell me, what am I going to multiply this fraction by? And use the previous examples to help you. Think about it. When we did just the fractions, we multiplied the first fraction by the second denominator and the second fraction by the first denominator. Same thing here. Multiply the first fraction by that second denominator and vice versa. So now, what do you think we're going to multiply the first fraction by? And hopefully you said we're going to multiply by x because that is the other denominator and they don't have any factors in common. Now, what are you going to multiply the second fraction by? See if you can figure it out. And hopefully you said you're going to multiply the second fraction by this denominator, 2x plus 1. So now think about what's the next thing we're going to do. And hopefully you said you are going to multiply out the numerators. And make sure you got 7 times x is 7x, x times negative x is x squared, 2 times 2x is 4x, and 2 times 1 is 2. And then just over the combined denominator, which is the same for both. And then what would you do? Hopefully you said you would just go ahead and combine the numerators. We still have to combine like terms, which we'll do next. And make sure you put it just over the combined denominator. Don't try to add denominators together. That's not what we do. So go ahead and combine like terms, which is 7x and 4x. So we get negative x squared plus 11x plus 2 over x times 2x plus 1. Remember, you could leave it there, but let's go ahead and multiply out that denominator, see what you get. So when you multiply out that denominator, you could have set it up using the box if you really wanted, but you might as well just use distributive property and multiply it out, distribute it. So x times 2x is 2x squared, x times 1 is x, and there is your completed fraction. Okay, let's look at this last one. Now this one has a trick, well, kind of a trick, but it makes it easier anyway. So on the first two problems, I said that you should check and see if your denominators have any common factors, and this one does. If you look at your second fraction, second expression here, this one, notice that this is an x compared to an x squared, and a negative 4 compared to a negative 4x. These here really just have an extra x. So this is just x times x and -4 times x. So if I were to multiply these by x, I would be able to have a common denominator. So on this one, it's really less work because you don't have to multiply this fraction by anything at all. You can just leave it alone. And then you end up with x times 3x, which is 3x squared, over, and that's multiplied out, so let me multiply this one too. X times x is x squared, and x times -4 is -4x. And then the denominators ended up the same, so you don't have to multiply this one at all, which I think is convenient. And then minus blah, 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 second fraction. Okay. Now, see if you can figure out what to do next. Remember to look at your steps up here. There's a certain step that I told you not to forget about if you're subtracting. So what are you supposed to do now? I really hope you said that you're going to distribute your negative sign, especially after I oh so subtly pointed at it right there. So I distributed my minus to negative times x, negative x. -2 is -2. And then you would combine like terms if you still had any, but we don't. All our like terms are combined. So we are finished. How exciting. All right, well, that's about it for adding and subtracting rational expressions. Thank you for watching.